Hi everyone, you're looking at a Panasonic RF-3100L, or otherwise known as a DR-31, and this radio came my way for 50 quid. Harwell Amateur Radio Society were selling some equipment that had been donated by somebody, and this radio was on a list of one of their weekly online updates. And knowing what it was, I bought it without actually even having seen a picture of it, because I trust those guys. And I think they wanted 70 quid for it, so I offered them 50 and they accepted. So I went and picked it up. And because for some reason, I don't know why, it's just one of those radio things, you know, you get kind of a bit of a fixation. I've always wanted one of the Panasonic kind of tabletop form factor radios. This isn't actually the one I really want. The one I really want is the RF-600B, which is, I think, about 10 years later. This originally came out in '82, and although it's a nice radio, and this particular example is in very good condition, I do prefer the later model, the RF-600B. But nevertheless, that radio would cost a lot more than 50 quid. What's interesting about this radio, the first thing I didn't realise is that got this panel on the top with the ubiquitous world time zone map and band plan. It actually runs on mains, but also runs on batteries. So this is basically a portable radio, runs on 8 D-cell batteries, which is good. As you know, I like a portable radio. And I wasn't aware of that, actually. It doesn't, in the flesh, it does look very plasticky. It does look more plasticky than my Yaesu, what would be the equivalent, well, it's not the equivalent, but an equivalent era radio, the FRG 7700. This definitely looks cheaper. It's definitely cheaper looking. The plastic quality is okay, but it is, you can see that it is basically just made of plastic and made to look a bit sort of shiny for sort of the sort of general consumer market. Having said that, I still like it. I still quite like the aesthetics of this radio. Obviously, it's, you know, it was introduced in 1982, so it could be up to 38 years old. And considering how old it is, everything works perfectly on it, and it's in very, very good condition. It's described as a 32 band receiver, so basically FM, AM, long wave, and then shortwave. And but what's fantastic about this radio is the audio quality. You can't really tell on this. I'm on shortwave now. It does have also adjustable audio bandwidth, so this is wide, narrow,
several newspaper offices could be found there,
wide,
and the building has been recently refurbished. The Interior Ministry holds more than this.
So that actually works really well. But as with the Yaesu FRG 7700, to access shortwave, you have to do it via a switch, a multi-contact switch, and basically switch up and down through the band. So you've got FM, long wave, medium wave, and then 29 sort of 1 megahertz sort of bands of shortwave to give you continuous coverage to 30 megs. So like this. So let's go down. So let's go down to long wave, and I'll show you. Okay, well that's 8. That's medium wave. Let's go to my station.
Ready for anything this Friday afternoon from 1 on TalkSport with Renault Pro Plus. Get your business back up and running with I'll pay later.
So there you go, that's the audio on medium wave.
Visit renault.co.uk/bands for terms and conditions.
Lovely audio. If I go down again, let's go to radio 4. Well, let's go through RTE. Pretty good performance on long wave. But if you want to listen to the perfect for listening to the cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a soft material and it's so comfortable that you don't know it's there, but you still could walk up and down the stairs or play with the children or answer the door and still feel really confident and comfortable. I mean, it looks lovely. It feels
so lovely audio, really nice audio. Yeah, a great radio for listening to. I mean, in terms of features, so obviously you've got volume control, you've got separate bass and treble, which actually work quite well.
Also,
I'll just turn the treble up and the bass right down.
Where they're all squished in.
So that's
and
maximum treble, zero bass.
So much about kind of the structure and
Turn the bass back
how
up.
you're going to get lighter.
And then the reverse.
On wired bra.
So
but actually, with the seams and the stitching,
works
and
very well
material,
in terms of adjusting the audio.
that
RF gain,
kind of
which
that
obviously for
soft
Radio
feedback
4 in this
all
area,
coming together.
you don't need a lot of
Come
RF
on.
gain
I just
for a
feel- it just
S9.
feels so comfortable.
And then what this radio also does, it has a beat frequency oscillator, a BFO, which you can toggle on and off for SSB. And it does work. So when you engage the BFO, so for example, during the live stream the other night, I tuned into Shannon Volmet. And the thing with the BFO is that when you engage it, there's absolutely a huge amount of adjustment between LSB and upper sideband. But you absolutely have to get it spot on for intelligible audio. If you don't, there's massive amount of adjustment. But unless you get it absolutely, it's critical to get it absolutely spot on, because what happens is the audio that you hear as you pass sort of through the modulation, the audio goes from unintelligible to basically unintelligible when there's just you just have a tiny amount of play here or adjustment where you have to get it absolutely spot on, otherwise it's unintelligible what you're listening to. So but it does work. So there you go, headphone socket at the front there. As I said, everything works. It's in pretty good nick when you consider this is sort of basically a 40-year-old radio. It's portable, runs on 8 D-cell batteries, and it's got a telescopic whip, which is the original, which is still in good nick. I think overall, it's just a really good radio for 50 quid. I was testing it the other day and sort of comparing it against some other radios. It wasn't a fair comparison because I had my top band end-fed wire attached to this without an earth, and that isn't fair in a suburban environment comparing that to my other radios, which are running on a Megaloop FX or a Wellbrook. But the one downside with this radio is that there isn't actually a BNC connector for a kind of low Z AM antenna. What you've got is a high Z connection, antenna, wire and earth. You've got a low Z connection, and then you've got FM. And so the bottom line is that it's difficult to attach an active mag loop. Now, I did actually attach the Megaloop FX to this last night. I attached the coax shielding to the earth and the core to the antenna contact, and it worked. But obviously, it won't work. It doesn't work as well as if it actually had a proper BNC type connector, shielded connector. You can switch between internal and external antenna, and there's a phono jack, and there's an external loudspeaker jack, which I think I've got my glasses on, I think it says 8 ohms only impedance. So there you go. It passed a safety test on the 31st of March 1999. So there you go. So it passed a safety test 20 years ago. Someone maybe was using it at work, I don't know. So there you go. Made in Japan. The mains cable is tucked up in the little compartment underneath, which is handy. So truly a portable radio, even though it's
and supportive bras.
A bit big, really. I wouldn't be carrying it anywhere, but just as I said, always wanted to own one of these kind of tabletop type Panasonics, and it's nice to have one, although as I said, it's not really the one I want. Now, it does seem quite sensitive. Last night, when I kind of hot wired it up to my Megaloop FX, I could hear clear audio from Radio Difusora Roraima in Brazil on 4875 kilohertz. That's a low power tropical band station. Could copy it no problem. On the wire the night before on the live stream, you guys will know that I copied Radio Club de Parrot on it, no problem. Last night I copied Mali on it on 5995 kilohertz with just the wire. So there's no doubt that it's got potential to work some DX. whether it's as good as an FRG 7700 or 8800, I don't know. You'd have to imagine that the performance might be similar to the 7700, although just the aesthetics of this, the styling of this radio, to me, it lends itself more to kind of like a consumer market than a sort of amateur radio, or radio hobbyist market. The FRG 7700, I think, is at least aesthetically, is more of a sort of professional receiver than this. This is more of a sitting on your coffee table type radio. But performance might be similar. Now, talking to Tam about this radio, when I told him I was buying one, he basically said, "Well, what are you doing that for? You've got your Yaesus, etc., etc." But then when I said to him that I'm only paying 50 quid for it, he basically said, "Okay, so that's actually a really good deal. Well done. You did the right thing." And then in terms of performance, I don't think. I don't know anyone that owns one of these. There are videos on the internet, but from what I've seen so far, the performance of it does seem sort of fairly good. So, but in the end, for 50 quid, it doesn't really matter, and it's just another radio to add to the collection that I don't need, and maybe it's a keeper. It probably is a keeper for now. It doesn't add anything other than interest, because I just find all these kind of older radios interesting, as you know, and you buy a lot of stuff that you don't really need, but that's not really the point. So I'm very happy with it and to share it with you. So that's basically a brief overview of what it can do. I'll no doubt be using it and posting some videos of it in operation, and I hope you enjoy them. But anyway, there you go. That's a brief overview of the DR-31, or otherwise known as the Panasonic RF-3100L, 1982 vintage, still going strong. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.